concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see?
Nah, this one wasn't Alex's fault. This one was YouTube's fault. I don't know what. I'm not going to go into the technical details, but the same way I usually start the stream suddenly wasn't working, and I had to do something slightly different to get YouTube to start the stream. But here I am, and here you are. And it's Monday night. It's 8 p.m. It's 8 p.m. where I am. What time is it where you are? Just let me know in the chat. TAC FPV. Zoe FPV. TAC FPV. In there. Some crazy good luminaries. Zoe gonna be holds her keyboard upside down when she types because she's 3D. Get it? Yeah. What up? It's time for Q&A with me, Joshua Bardwell. I'm your host. I'm everything on this show. I'm not just your host. Except for Alex over there. He's running my soundboard. Any mistakes, any technical problems, they belong to him. So here's how the stream runs. Most of you probably already know this, but just in case you are new here, you ask questions, I answer them, and we do that for about 2 hours, just as fast as I can. I get them done. And in case you're curious, here's what I'm looking at right now. Here's what I'm looking at on my main screen. Yeah, right here. This is my YouTube chat window, and those questions come by, and I answer as many of them as I can, but they come by super, super fast. So fast I can't possibly get them all, especially the way I tend to go on. So if you want to bump your question out into the super chat, just hit that $sign, throw a couple bucks at me, and your question will be broken out here into the super chat. And if anybody wants to just as a demonstration right here on the stream, any dollar amount's fun. I'm just kidding. And then over here on the left is that's my Discord. Hey there, Chamber. How you doing, man? If you join my Patreon at any dollar amount, the minimum is $2 a month. You could give up. It goes up more if you feel like that you want to, but you get to join my Discord. And I don't know. So here's the thing that I don't get. I don't know. I'm not a psychology. I don't do marketing, but I answer everybody's questions. I try to answer everybody's questions. I do pay a little more attention to the Discord. Like when I get up in the morning, the first thing I look at as I'm sitting down with my coffee is my Discord. And then my emails, and then my Facebook messages, and then my YouTube comments. I get to them all, though, almost all of them. So I guess if you want to be first on that list, become a patron, join the Discord, and you can ask me questions during the live stream as well. So we're going to start today. With a little email that I sent out, and it pertains to the Jumper T16 and the Free Sky, the company of Free Sky. Because so I've actually known about what's going on here for a little while. Little birdies have been telling me things, and I did not want to just jump and sort of blow the lid off the whole thing. But Kebab made a video talking about it, and I thought, well, I'm not going to let him get all the attention. No. I thought I really do have an opinion about what's going on. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, what's going on? Actually, I have a video I made. It's going to be tomorrow's video. Well, I don't know when I'll release it, but what I want to do is hang on. What I want to do is I just want to share this with you guys, and then we'll talk about it here in the chat. David Kernica? No, hang on. I mean, maybe, but let's watch this video, and then we'll go from there. Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. And the topic we're talking about today is Jumper versus FrSky. So this is the FrSky Horus X10S. It's a radio released by FrSky. And this is the Jumper T16. It's a radio released by Jumper. And FrSky feels that these two radios are too similar. Now you might say to yourself, who cares what FrSky thinks? What does it matter? Well, FrSky is acting on their dislike of the Jumper T16 by sending letters to resellers like this. Good morning. We noticed that your store have been selling Jumper T16. T16 is a copy of FrSky X10. Copy and clone does no good to the RC industry, to the manufacturers, to the dealers, or to the customers. We hope your company, as a FrSky business partner and leader in the drones and FPV market, will reevaluate the Jumper product line. We hope your store can remove the T16 from your website. We are open to discuss if any requirement and suggestions from your side. In other words, if you would like to ask us to pay you money to get rid of the Jumper T16, we are open to that. Okay, so I'm not just speculating there. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but at least one retailer has made a deal where FrSky will pay them money in exchange for them not. Basically, they'll give them additional margins, which is the essence paying them money in exchange for them not carrying T16. But most vendors are just getting this email. I say most because several people independently have reached out to me and said that they received basically the exact same email that I sent you there, where FrSky says, hey, don't sell the T16. Okay, let's keep going. That's how you should read that. Or else FrSky will reevaluate the Patent cooperation Lobster, I'm not saying who it is or isn't. May downgrade your customer grade or remove the FrSky dealer list and even stop supplying product. Yeah, Patent Lobster is proposing that the vendor I'm talking about is Pyroflip RC. I'm not saying who is leaking information to me or who has a deal, but if you know of someone who received the letter, you can speak for yourself, but you can't speak for me. In other words, dear store owner, stop selling Jumper or we're going to cut you off. And FrSky, I'm not a fan of this approach at all. I'm not a fan of this approach of going to dealers and saying, we are not going to provide a product to you if you carry a competitor. The Jumper T16 runs OpenTX firmware. The OpenTX firmware runs on lots and lots of different radios, FrSky radios, and non-FrSky radios. No problem, Patent Lobster. I just want to be clear to everyone in the chat. That you understand that OpenTX is open source. It's actually governed by the GNU public license, the GPL, and what you need to know about the GPL is that it explicitly allows, if I could sum it up, it allows anyone to do anything they want with this code as long as they also release the source to the code that they have derived from your code. So in other words, if I want to take OpenTX, if I want to build a radio that is compatible with OpenTX and sell that radio, I am 100% legally allowed to do that. And no one really disputes this. FrSky seems to be trying to make more of a moral argument that what Jumper is doing is bad for the RC hobby because they've just copied the X10. But have they? Here's a post that Ready Made RC made to their Facebook page showing the insides of the Horus X10 and the Jumper T16. And it's pretty obvious that this is not a copy of the same PCB. It's not a copy of the same internals. It's just obvious from even a casual look that this is not a copy of the circuit. What Jumper did copy was the functional layout of the internals of the Horus X10. And that sounds damning at first, but I am going to argue that it is not, because if I give you a piece of open source code that you're allowed to use, you will then derive the hardware design necessarily from that code. If that code uses an ARM processor and it expects certain switches to be on certain pins, you're going to put those switches on those pins. So in my opinion, any similarity between the Jumper T16 and the Horus X10S is a function of the fact that they run the same firmware, not a function of the fact that Jumper has copied anything proprietary to FrSky. But there's more to this story, and it ties into the inherent conflict between open source projects and companies that try to make money off of open source projects. I firmly believe that money can be made from open source projects, but if you look at real world examples of that, it is always, almost always, in providing services tied to the product. If there's an open source product and all your competitors can take all your work and just develop products using your work, and they don't have to pay for R&D, they get to sell products, that is an inherent conflict. And unfortunately, that's the situation that FreeSky finds themselves in by basing so much of their hardware design and their product line on an open source firmware. But they got themselves into that mess, and they can't now suddenly decide that they're not okay with it. In an earlier live stream, I said you can't build a closed proprietary fortress on top of an open source mountain. You got to the top of the mountain because of open source. The fact that you're now at the top, you can't now just start knocking other people off who are also climbing that same mountain. In my opinion, that's what FreeSky is trying to do here. I asked the OpenTX devs for comment about this issue, and here is a comment that one of them left. He said, yes, there is a bias towards FreeSky, but that is based on the fact that FreeSky do their best to design original products and features. You guys, in case you're confused, you're watching a video I'm preparing for release, but you're getting a little preview of it, but I'm actually still here on the mic. You know, you hear me typing or slurping my drink. Listen to us. Many popular features of their radios have come from our vision. They trust us. They understand us. They respect us. They've done that for 7 years now, and etc. In other words, what this particular OpenTX dev said, yes, we're biased towards FreeSky, and we don't like other vendors. That's their prerogative. Open source devs have absolutely no requirement to be objective. They're just guys working for free on a project. They can work with whatever companies they like. And the beauty of open source is that if somebody like Jumper comes along and the or Nirvana comes along and the OpenTX devs don't want to work on their hardware, they can fork it and they can work on it themselves, which is exactly what Jumper has done, and FreeSky objects to it. By the way, the real reason that the FreeSky devs are being accused of bias is it's not just because it seems like FreeSky radios get priority. Well, that's been acknowledged. But it's also because one of the OpenTX main devs is a full-time employee of FreeSky. He didn't used to be. They hired him. And again, there's nothing morally wrong with that. He can take employment from whoever he wants, and if his contributions to this open source project have won him this position, that's fine, but it certainly is something that might help explain the friendliness between FreeSky and OpenTX. Okay, so that's the situation. If you see that the Jumper T16 is disappearing from certain stores, you should assume that that's because that store has decided that their relationship with FreeSky is more valuable than their relationship with Jumper. And that's certainly understandable. FreeSky sells an enormous amount of radios. So some vendors are going to make that choice. And if you see a store that is selling the T16 and suddenly stops selling FreeSky, that's because FreeSky probably cut them off. And you should take that into consideration, whether you're okay with that or not. I just want you to have the information. All right. So yeah, in case you were confused, that was a preview of a video that I'm going to be releasing. But people asked, what do you think about this whole FreeSky thing? And I thought, well, rather than just talk for 10 minutes, I'm going to just show you the video. So let me ask you guys, I saw some comments in the chat. What do you think of this situation? I can see both sides of it. The argument that that innovation, FreeSky innovates. There's no doubt about that. The fact that FreeSky has historically kind of been accused of being a cloner is ironic. Like, wasn't one of FreeSky's very first products the wasn't it a clone Futaba receiver? Am I wrong about that? I don't know about that. Somebody told me that. And then, of course, some people feel like R9 is clone of Crossfire. That I'm not going to... I mean, I've weighed in that I think it's a separate product. But it's kind of ironic that... Because what Jumper is doing with the open source is explicitly legal and encouraged by the GPL. And my argument boils down to, if you don't like the GPL because it is bad for business and it is bad for innovation, okay, I think that's a valid argument. But don't base your whole business on a piece of GPL software and then say, oh, I don't like the GPL. That's what it comes down to for me. And then when you start going to vendors and saying, if you carry our competitor, we're going to cut you off. I didn't like that when TBS did it. I don't like it. I don't like that ever. That's BS. That's just anti-competitive BS. It puts the vendor in a really shitty spot. So, anyway, there you go. That's what's happening. All I want to do is, here's what I want to say about this. I think if you look at the Jumper T16 and you say this is a clone simply because it runs the same software, you're not paying attention. The T16, look at the the T12. It's just the T16 is an objectively decent radio. I think that's a fair thing to say. There are so many things that they could have screwed up in the design of the radio and they didn't. And that in and of itself is innovation of a sort. Even if they didn't innovate on the software, who cares? They're not required to. So, and I think that the friendliness that exists between the OpenTX devs and FreeSky is not necessarily the best thing for us as users. There's nothing wrong with a particular company coming to dominate an open source project. That is just a thing. The devs give their time and they can give it to whomever they want. But when one company comes to dominate an open source project, you get situations where, like the Nirvana, where is the OpenTX release that fully supports the Nirvana? Why is it not here? But all the new FreeSky radios are supported. Well, it's not really a mystery why that happens. And the OpenTX devs will say, that's because we like working with them and they're innovators. And whatever your reasons are, the OpenTX devs prefer to work with and support FreeSky radios. And that leaves a big gap for everybody else. The good news is that Jumper can fork OpenTX and develop Jumper TX, and that's the great thing about open source, and they can. But when FreeSky is trying to use market bullying to drive them out of the market, I don't like it. Anyway, there we go. That is that. I don't know about the legality. The real question, I want you to think about this. The official import code for RC transmitters has a 35% tariff on it. Thank you, President Trump, in the U.S. FreeSky's typical margin to retailers is, I'm told by some retailers, 25%. So how is FreeSky getting radios into the U.S. with a 35% tariff and still keeping a 25% margin for their retailers? I don't know the answer to that question. That's an interesting question. That's all. That's all I have to say. Daniel Oberbauer, I'm a little bit sniffly because it's spring and there's pollen in the air and I have actually awful allergies. Thank you. This live stream sponsored by Nasacort. I actually just, while I was muted while you guys were watching that video, snorted some Nasacort to try to help me be a little less sniffly. But okay, let's get on with the Q&A. Patent Lobster wants to know, you asked me 3 times, Patent Lobster. I appreciate you wanting the answer. Did you hear Trappy says he won't send you any more stuff to review because all of the drama you seem to make? No, I didn't hear that, but I'm not surprised. He's asked me literally twice in our relationship. He's gotten so fed up with me that he asked me to stop reviewing or testing his products. What are you going to do? As long as you guys like using TBS products, as long as TBS keeps making good products that you guys buy and use, I will continue to test and review them. And if he doesn't want to send me any for free, I'll just buy them. It doesn't really matter. Adam L. You are right, Adam L. That doesn't work for pallets of product. So let's imagine that I am a manufacturer of transmitters. Call me JB Sky, And let's imagine that I know that if I put an honest tariff code on my product, then my retailers will have negative 10% margin. So what I might do is put the wrong tariff code on them and then ship them not in pallets but in small packages that I can put the wrong tariff code. I can get a small or no tariff, no import tax. And that might explain why JB Sky products are constantly out of stock and there's a constant wait list on them because they're not being shipped in the way that they ought to be. I mean, I don't know. That's what I would do if I were making manufacturing stuff. That's what I would do. Alrighty. So let's do some Q&A. Dusty Aldrich wants a list to my budget build. Dusty, the budget build, I've come to accept that it's probably never going to be in stock again. So if you look in the comments section of the budget build videos, there's a link to all the parts that you can buy individually, and you can just buy the parts individually. Let's see. Other questions. Any suggestions for getting GPS to grab satellites faster? Cold starts are taking over 5 minutes. Thumbs FPV, a cold start will always take like 5 or 10 minutes. That's normal. But the GPS should have a tiny little battery in it. That means that when you power it back on, it's not cold starting and it should come up much, much faster. If your GPS always takes 5 minutes the first time it powers up, your battery may be dead. So maybe you need to change the battery on your GPS unit so it continues to hold the satellites. Yeah, maybe so. Josh, Logan FPV says, it was my Wi-Fi on my run cam, stuffing up my quad, making it fall out of the sky. Well, Logan, I will tell you, I run Wi-Fi on all my GoPros. And the reason, I said this in a previous live stream, the reason I do that is because I want to be able to find the GoPro using I just attach to it with my phone and then use the Find My GoPro feature, which makes it start beeping. So I always run Wi-Fi on. I've never had a fail-safe. 2.4 gig, obviously, never had a fail-safe. But if you consistently get fail-safes when you have your Wi-Fi on, and you got to turn your Wi-Fi off. That's just the bottom line. Teddy Elijah wants to know, what motor would you suggest under $16? Teddy, I would suggest, what's going on over here in this page? Here we go. Dagnabbit. Teddy, I would suggest if you want to go to fpvknowitall.com, the ultimate FPV shopping list is all of my... What's going on down here at the bottom of the screen? Doesn't make any sense. That's where all of my product suggestions are. Best quadcopter parts. And then you can go to motors. And the cheapest motor I recommend, I don't recommend it, but if you have only $9 to buy a motor, this is an okay choice. I think that one of the best values for motors is a 3B Hobby training motor. This one comes in, I think, around $12. Well, it's currently out of stock. It's slightly better quality and reliability than the Samgook. It's still not a $25 motor, and then if your target is $16, here's the 3B Hobby 2207. And this guy actually, I think, comes in around, well, 19, so a little more than 16. But this is actually a really, really good motor. So the other one that is worth looking at is the Emax Eco motor. Comes in around $12, but it's always out of stock. So there you go. Let's see here. Leslie Simmons says, I can't seem to get my RSSI over 35 in my OSD. I followed your steps in your video. Can't get it over 35. Also, Betaflight won't save my channel selection in the receiver tab. Here is the probable answer to your problem, Leslie. Let me just plug in my flight controller here and get Betaflight going. Leslie, what you need to do when you set up RSSI is go into the configuration tab and go down to here, RSSI ADC. That needs to be off, okay? You need to turn that off, and you need to save and reboot. And then here in the receiver tab, you will be able to select your RSSI channel. Now, I can't select an RSSI channel because I don't have a receiver hooked up to this flight controller. But if your RSSI channel will not stick every time you save, it just resets. The probable answer is that you have RSSI ADC turned on, and if that's turned on, it overrides your channel. So that's probably the answer, Leslie. We got some super chats coming in. One of them is from Appy FPV, who says, "Hello, could you read my email and give your opinion? I appreciate the £5, Appy. I have no idea what email you're talking about, though." Oh, scrolling FPV feed. Is that you, Appy? For £5, I should read it. Appy, you and I were talking about your VTX. Unfortunately, Appy, I wish you'd give me a little more context. I'm not really sure. I'm answering your email in email, but let's talk about it offline, Appy, because I'm not actually sure what you're talking about. Gabe Moyers, thanks for $1. Gives me an emoji. Okay. Andrew Rise, $5, says, "Hey JB, is the Nirvana in a good enough place that it's worth picking up?" Andrew Rise, the Nirvana is excellent build quality. If the ergonomics work for you, then it's definitely worth looking at. The firmware is pretty mature. Stingy uses it as his daily driver, for example. One of the disadvantages of it is that the internal module is FlySky. If you have a bunch of FreeSky, you're going to want to get a FreeSky module to go in the back. That's a little annoying. If, like Stingy, you're just 100% Crossfire, then you're just going to use Crossfire all the time. It's going to be fine. The biggest thing I would say is that would make you sort of hesitate about going whole hog with the Nirvana is every time I mention the Nirvana, like in a video or on Facebook, the comment section fill up with people who are having customer service issues with them. It seems like they're not very good about responding to emails or shipping product promptly. I'm sorry to say that, but there's so many comments to that effect every time I mention them. And I asked Warwick about that, and he said, well, we actually just had a fire at our office, or maybe at his home, and we're kind of backed up. I was like, okay, I get it. But that's the same complaints have been happening for months. And so that's the biggest thing. If you get the unit in your hands and the firmware's on it, I think you're going to like it. But some people are a little annoyed right now about it. Appy FPV, I do want to answer your question. And if you ask me your question, then I will be happy to answer it. But you and I, Appy FPV, I mean, you and I have gone back and forth like 10 messages. So I'm like, okay, here's your email. Unfortunately, no, as this is my first build, I'll have to start buying parts to swap out. What would you recommend to swap out first? And I said the VTX, and then you didn't say anything. So I'm not sure. Like, just ask me your question. Just ask me your question, and I'll answer it. Very easy. Okay. Like, no disrespect intended. I would love to help you. I don't want to take 600 people's time digging through the emails to try and find out what you're trying to ask me when you could just ask me. Sorry. Okay. What's going on in the Discord? Super chats are caught up. The Tumbleweed 30 points out that the 3B motor now has a Popo version for $17. If you like Popo, you can grab that. Very nice. We are also working on a version of the JB motor with the Popo prop. People have been asking that for a while, as long as we're talking about Popo. So, yeah. Oh, it looks like the standard Popo shaft still comes with threads. That's good. I thought they took the threads off of that. That's very... Wait a minute. That's not the standard shaft. It doesn't have the pop-up button. What's this? What's with this? This is the... That's so weird. This is the... Looks like it's the Pro shaft, but it has threads. I have no idea what's going on with Popo. Anyway, okay, great. Krupp says, yo, I'm getting fail-safes at low mid-throttle. Quad is only a few meters away. How would you diagnose? Okay, if you're getting fail-safe only a few meters away, then odds are it is not an RF issue. It's not a bad antenna or something. Chances are excellent that it is power to the receiver itself is broken, or something like that. That's how I would go. So the first thing I would do in this case is I would resolder all the wires from the receiver to the flight controller and just check that the power is solid. MC Menace wants to know, what's D-Shot 32? MC Menace, I don't know either. I've never heard of D-Shot 32. Tumbleweed 30 wants to know why FreeSky didn't just say that Jumper copied Futaba. Yeah, I mean, Futaba doesn't seem to be... Oh, they probably are annoyed. They just don't care. Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing about the whole FreeSky thing. Some people were asking, what about the new FreeSky Access protocol? That's FreeSky's new air protocol. And in addition to bringing a bunch of really legitimately cool features, like over-the-air firmware updates, the FreeSky Access protocol is encrypted. which is, I'm guessing, is going to lock out vendors like Jumper, who have the D16 multi-protocol module that's compatible with FreeSky receivers. I'm guessing that the new access protocol, it won't be so easy to copy. JB Edits wants to know, what PIDs should I change if my motors are hot after 1 minute of hover? I have D values around 20. What I would do, JB Edits, if you have hot motors, like really hot motors on default PIDs and filters, probably something is wrong. Like, assuming you're running like a typical 5-inch quad, probably something's wrong, because the defaults are tuned specifically for that type of setup. So people are like, what should I change? And I'm like, figure out why your quad is broke. But if you want to know what to change about your filters, if you have hot motors after 1 minute of hovering, then what I would do is go into PID tuning, go into filter settings, and this is Betaflight 4.0 here. You could add another filter. Like, you could add the gyro low pass 2 at 100 hertz. That by adding filtering, you're going to cool the motors. Or if this is Betaflight 357, what you could do is you could take the biquad filter and you could just reduce this number. The lower this number is, the more filtering there is, and the cooler your motors are going to be. So just take that number down by 10 or 20 and see if that helps. But the first thing I would tell you to do if you have hot motors is double check that your motor screws are not touching the windings. If your screws are too long and they're touching the windings, you're going to get hot motors. Usually if you have like, also, what's your standard for hot motors? Are they like really like just smoking hot? Because again, something ain't right. Alrighty. Catching up on the chat. What's the best field charger that isn't too expensive? Asks Carlos Nuno. Carlos, I got to say, I got to give a plug out. Look behind me. Look behind me. There we are. There we are. Right there. What's that on the... There it is. On the bench behind me. Right there. HobbyMate D6 Duo is my current go-to charger. I have just... Let's throw it up here on the screen real quick. Why does my keystrokes are always changing tabs? Here's the HobbyMate D6 Duo. I have a review it up on my channel. Oh, see, look, you purchased this item. See, I'm not kidding you guys. I purchased this item. The more I've used this, the more I have come to like it. I initially was a little turned off because it had a built-in AC adapter, and I was like, I don't need that. I have a big DC power supply, but when you run it off a DC power supply, it does like 600 watts. And when you plug it into the wall, it does like 200 watts. And Drew brings this with him on all of our Rotor Riot trips. And whereas I have a big 700 watt power supply and my little ISDT Q6, he just has this thing and he plugs it in the wall. Okay, he can't do 15 amps like I can, but it's just such a simple solution. It just does everything. And I really, really like it. So to me, like, that's just the charger I would have, and I would take it to the field. Now, Full Watts is mentioning the iCharger X6. Let's get that up on the screen, because you're right. If what you want is a field charger where it's a given that you're going to be charging off the battery, right? You got a battery or a car battery or something like that, and you want something just as small and functional as possible, the iCharger X6 is really, really freaking good. Now, first of all, it's made by iCharger, so the quality and the accuracy and precision is just going to be top notch. It's only $100. You can get an ISDT Q6 for about $60, but like, the quality on the iCharger is going to be much higher. A lot of people are getting counterfeit ISDTs, and they're just terrible, terrible quality, and they're breaking. I don't know how this is happening. Maybe they're actually ISDTs, and they're just messed up. But this one, if money's no object, this is a fantastic field charger. It's so small, so powerful, and good quality. So that's a good choice. Yeah, good suggestion. Let's see here. Randall Badgett, thanks for $10. No question, just $10. Thank you, Randall. Sean Jones, $5. What's the best complete $100 and under RC kit you would suggest? So, John Jones, when you say $100 and under, I'm going to assume that you mean just the quad, because if what you want is the quad, the goggles, and the transmitter all at once, the only thing that comes close is the Emax Tiny Hawk RTF kit. Let's just pull that up real quick. Emax Tiny Hawk RTF kit. Again, I'm super annoyed that my video is not in the top 3. Where's my video? Yeah. I'm up to 4th place. Get me on the front page. Who is this guy? Albert Kim? Who is that guy? Get him out of there. Uava Futures? Who is that? That what? Okay, but seriously, Emacs Tiny Hawk RTF. It's about $160 US and 165. Okay, and comes with literally everything you need to start flying, and that is the cheapest and most cost-effective way to get in the air. If what you want is a quadcopter for under about $100, I think. What's the best Tyro these days? Is the Tyro 109 the best one today? I think probably. Oh, come on. Get your search algorithm together, Banggood. Here you go. Yeah, Tyro 109 is a 5-inch. It's $109. It's okay, so it's not quite under $100. Now, let me tell you, though, I don't think that that is a good buy. I don't recommend you buy it. But if what you have is exactly $100 in your pocket and not a penny more, that's the one that I would suggest you be looking at. The thing is, when you get down to the $100 price point, there are so many compromises that you're just guaranteed to get really poor quality electronics. And they're going to break. They might be DOA right out of the box. It's a big gamble. When you go up to the like $200 price point, my JB budget build comes in around $220, and it's much better hardware. Like you pay twice as much, but you get 5 times better hardware. And so there you go. All right. When am I going to be playing Apex again? Asks Viper FPV. I play Apex. I don't know when I'll stream it again. We did a stream a little while back. Me, Botgrinder, and that Uava Futures guy, and we all streamed Apex Legends and had a brilliant time. The best match that we had was the one. Sorry about that. I'm screwing with my thing. The best match was the one where we both all said, "Let's just find one guy and just punch him to death." It's a video game, people. It's instead of picking up guns and running around and trying to shoot people, which we were all crap at, let's just like bum rush one guy and see if we can punch him to death. And then we all got killed, but it was really hilarious. Thank you, Eric Toman, for $2 in the super chat. No question, just $2. I know, JB Edits. I know what UAV stands for. It was a joke. It was a joke. Let's see here. Flange Monkey asks in the Discord, what is it that makes motors hot? That's a very good question, Flange Monkey. Okay, so there are 2 things that can make motors hot. Well, 3 things. One is if you're in the middle of Dubai in the summer and the ambient temperature is 120 degrees Fahrenheit, your motors are going to be hot. Everything's hot. Okay, so hot ambient temperatures make motors hot. Okay. The next thing that makes motors hot is overpropping them. So let's think about a motor. Like just think about like a cordless drill or something. What happens as you bind up the motor? The more the motor is bound up, the more electricity running through the motor is converted into heat. Think about it. Electricity runs through the motor and it has to be converted either into mechanical work, spinning, or it's converted into heat. Or friction, but if the motor can't spin, the energy gets converted to heat. So when you overprop the motor is trying to spin the prop at a certain RPM, but the drag on the prop is just as if you were grabbing the motor and squeezing it and keeping it from spinning as fast as it wants, and that causes heat buildup. So the second thing that causes motors to get hot is overpropping them. You can tell if you're overpropping. We'll tell you the third thing. The third thing that makes motors hot is excess vibration or electrical noise. So what happens when there's vibration or electrical noise is the PID controller's job is to get rid of unwanted motion. When you move the stick, the PID controller makes the quad move. When you don't move the stick, the PID controller makes the quad not move. And if there's vibration, the PID controller tries to cancel out the vibration. Now, the motors can only change speed so fast. So when the quad is going or faster, too fast for me to move my hand, 300 hertz, 250 hertz. When the quad is vibrating at that speed, the pin controller tries to make the motors cancel that out, but the motors can't change speed fast enough. And so the motor signal is going like this, but the motor can't do it. And that results in hot motors. Basically, anytime you're driving current through the motor and the motor is not changing speed to match what that current is demanding, the motor heats up. So excess vibration, and specifically point number 3, high D gains or insufficient filtering cause hot motors. Or not soft mounting your flight controller causes hot motors. Okay? So when you have hot motors, there's a fourth thing. If your motor screws are too long and your motor screw is touching the winding, then you get a short circuit and that causes hot motors. That's different though. So when you have hot motors, the first thing you can do is you can go into Betaflight and you can set your D gains to 0. And if your D gains are at 0, first of all, your quad will fly like crap. You're not supposed to fly this way. It's just a test. Set your D gains to 0, and then if your motors are still hot, then they may just be overpropped. But if you set your D gains to 0 and the motors cool down, you may need more filtering or lower D gains. Okay, there you go. That's what makes it hot. Austin AME asks in the Discord, is the new FreeSky access protocol going to work with our existing Tiny Whoops? I don't know about Tiny Whoops, Austin. They have announced that the firmware will be upgradable on the RXSR, and they have said that they're going to make it backwards compatible in other receivers, but time will tell whether that actually is true. Back to the regular chat. FP Visioning. JB, any ideas why my milliamp and amp draw isn't working? FP Visioning, getting current sensing working is a pain in the butt. The answer to your question depends on how your flight controller is getting current information into itself. So your ESC, either you're using individual ESCs and they're wired to your flight controller and you're using your flight controller's internal current sensor, or you've got a 4-in-1 ESC and it has either ESC telemetry or analog current sensing. Those 3 scenarios each need to be set up differently. And the exact way to set them up depends on what flight controller and ESC you have. So if you will, FP Visioning, if you will throw what flight controller and ESC you're using into the chat, and I will do my best to catch it, although I might not. If you'll tell me those, I'll try and give you a little bit better answer. Kyle K, as far as I know, the only receiver FreeSky has currently announced that they definitely will have firmware for is the RXSR. When they did the announcement of the FreeSky Access Protocol, they said, oh, backwards compatible with all receivers. And I was like, yeah, well, we'll believe that when it happens. So they're going to do the RXSR for sure. And maybe, presumably, they intend to do other receivers. But, it's already out, Glenn Corkery. Interesting. Yeah, because the X-Lite Pro is out now. Glenn Corkery, thank you. It's already out for the RXSR. Unknown whether that's going to be. They intend to do it for others, but I'll believe it when I see it. It doesn't mean that I don't think they're going to do it. I just say, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we'll give backward support for all of our old products. Of course we will. And then when the time comes to actually do the work, sometimes you got better things to do. That's all I'm saying. Mamba F405 and the Mamba F40 FP Visioning. Okay, let's dive over here. Let's look at the Mamba F405 and F40, and let's see if we can figure out how this is supposed to work. So we got a 4-in-1 ESC here. So then what we got to figure out is whether this ESC is doing analog current sensing or ESC telemetry. And let's see how we can figure that out. It's not going to be easy. I need the pin out. Current sensor, 169 amps. Where's the backside of the ESC? If I could see the backside of the ESC, it could help. The fact that it says current sensor, 169 amps, makes me think that there is a single current sensor. And when there's a single current sensor, then it's always analog current sensing. When you're doing ESC telemetry, there are always 4 current sensors, one for each of the 4 ESCs. So I'm going to guess that this is doing analog current sensing. And if that's the case, can I see? Oh, can I zoom in here? Can I see the pinout labels? No, it's too. Oh, Does that say cur? Okay, so here's what I'm going to think. I think that you're going to need to do to get this working. Assuming that it's analog current sensing. The F is going on down here. What is... Why are you... Got my taskbar down here. There. Okay. Beta flight. Here. Alrighty, anyway. What you're going to need to do for analog current sensing is you're going to go into power and battery, and you're going to use the voltage meter source, or rather the current meter source, onboard ADC. And that will set up analog current sensing, and that should work. Yeah, that should work. I think, if what I understand about the... Jack Johnson, I'm trying to figure out if the F405 ESC, if the F40 ESC does analog current sensing or ESC telemetry. INFPV ESC telemetry, the main thing it's good for is current sensing. It also carries ESC temperature and ESC RPM. So if you are interested in looking at RPM data, then yeah, it's okay. But for the most part, the only interesting data it carries is current sensing. And so basically, you just pick whichever of those two the ESC supports, analog or ESC telemetry. I don't go out of my way to get ESC telemetry except for current sensing. I don't really care about the other two things. Pat Nolan, we're drinking Tang. This is Tang Juice Squirt. Yeah. XZLR8N, if you have that exact same stack, how is your power and battery set up? I mean, that could be just the default setting. Ion FPV, if your ESC supports both, then you get to decide. And personally, my preferred choice is analog. And the reason I prefer analog is that ESC telemetry takes up a UART. Analog current sensing doesn't take up a UART. So if my ESC has analog current sense, then I want to use it so I have a spare UART for something else. Pardon me. Chamber wants to know what I think of the new Aomway Commander. There's a new Aomway Commander goggle. What is it? V1S, I think, right? Aomway Commander V1S. New goggles, $279. So any FPV goggle comes in under $300 is worth a look. Aomway in the past has made acceptable quality goggles. Some people think they're better than acceptable. I'm willing to say that they're at least acceptable. There are some quirks about them, but they are absolutely usable. Many people buy these as their first goggle and have gone on to just keep them forever. So let's... Oh, hey. Was this a V1S? Oh, I wonder why they're using my V1 review. Oh, well. Whatever. 32-degree field of view. That's okay, except, wait a minute, it's widescreen. 32-degree field of view widescreen is actually a smaller image than if it's... Because think about it, it's the diagonal field of view. The 32 degrees on a 4:3 screen is bigger than 32 degrees on a, you see, on a 69. So it's actually a fairly small image, but acceptable. I don't think it's great that it's widescreen. Most of us are flying with 4:3 cameras, so it's going to be stretched. I'd be happier if it was like 640 by 480. It's 854 by 480. So, okay, not the best. It's not going to be a large image, but for $279, $280. Here's the thing, though. Here's what I would say to you if you're thinking about buying this goggle. First of all, you should look at the Eachine EV200D, which has a much larger image and I think a better looking image than the Aomway. But the other thing is you should look around and see if there's a place you can get a set of used Fat Shark HD3s for $300. I mean, because they're out there, and I personally would probably take a good condition used set of HD3s over a brand new Aomway or Eachine, because Fat Shark will still be able to support and repair them. I'm not going to go off on this. I've talked about this on previous live streams, but I think that the existence of Fat Shark after sales support is a really, really compelling reason to choose them. If you buy a set of Aomway Commanders and 3 months after you get them, they stop working for no apparent reason, you're just screwed, probably. Okay. Um, let's see here. What goggles do I use? Mike Centinella. I use that Fat Shark HD3 are my daily driver. Eventually, when they die, I probably will go to the HDO because the HD3s are end of life. Jim Halpert on the Discord, by the way, nice username, Jim Halpert, asks, do you have a video on changing motor bearings? I don't. Jim Halpert, every time, look on Project Blue Falcon. Project Blue Falcon, his YouTube channel. I think he has a video on changing bearings. Every time I have ever tried to, I've made like 2 or 3 videos where I try to change motor bearings. And every time I do, I destroy the bearings because I don't know how to get them out without destroying them. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not qualified to make this video. So now I don't change motor bearings anymore. I just replace motors. Pyrotic on the Discord says, my quad flips out of the air to the back left, but only after giving it about 40% or more throttle. I switched the wires between the 2 back motors and remapped them in Betaflight, but the quad still flips out of the sky. Can a motor be bad, but still fly at low throttle? Yep, absolutely. Either the motor or ESC is probably damaged. Great troubleshooting, by the way, Pyrotic. Switching the motors and switching the signal wires and remapping them, very clever. That proves that the flight controller is not the problem because it always still flips the same direction. So that's good troubleshooting. But the bottom line is, if your quad falls out of the sky, it does what's called a death roll. A death roll is where the quad goes. That's a death roll. If it always goes the same direction, diagonally, front and to the left, back and to the left, if it always rolls the same way, use your DVR. Always record DVR, by the way. Always be recording DVR. Just have that SD card in there. In your Fat Shark goggles, you can set them to auto record, so they'll just always start recording. Check your DVR, and if it always rolls the same way, it's probably a bad motor or ESC. Ooh. What happened to Project Blue Falcon? Oh, Jeff Stewart. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, my friend. He died. He died in a motorcycle accident. I don't know about Sam Shepard, but yeah, no, Sam Shepard. Yeah, he passed away in a motorcycle accident. I'll tell you guys a funny story that relates to Project Blue Falcon. If you don't know who Project Blue Falcon is, his videos, you'll still find his videos if you're trying to do QX7 or FreeSky setup. He was a YouTuber. He was coming up. Our subscriber counts roughly matched each other for a while, and then he was in a motorcycle accident and passed away, unfortunately. But a funny story. So I was working on a military base, and in the cafeteria, it said they had like chicken wings on, just chicken wing buffet, and it said, "Don't take more than 6 wings. Don't be a Blue Falcon." And I thought, Blue Falcon, that can't be a coincidence because Blue Falcon was in the military. And I said to the guy I was there with, I said, Blue Falcon, I used to know a guy whose nickname was Blue Falcon. What does that mean? And he says it means buddy effer. Don't F your buddy by taking too many wings. I was like, wow, I guess his name must have been like meant ironically because that's actually not a compliment. So there must be a story behind how he got that nickname because you wouldn't just give yourself that nickname if there wasn't a story behind it. So yeah, that's what it means. Dufour FPV, how do I fix my DVR on my Dominator V3s? No DVR lights. Dufour, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know what's wrong with your DVR board, and you don't have to know either. Email support@fatshark.com and tell them my DVR doesn't light up, and they will tell you what to do next. And by the way, the great thing about Fat Shark support is they don't just go, I don't know, send it in and we'll charge you $80 to fix it. They're not like that. The guy, his name is Randy, in the U.S. Service Center, the guy you always end up talking to, his name is Randy, and he'll be like, you want to open him up? Well, here's what you should look at. He'll be like, if you want to send him in, go ahead. But if you want to work on him yourself, he'll just walk you through troubleshooting. I mean, obviously, if you jam a screwdriver into it and break it, that's on you. But if you want to troubleshoot it yourself, he'll help you do it. So let's see here. INFPV, I was working on a military base. I've done, in my past life and in my current life, I've done various work on military bases and in other places. For the record, I am not and never have been in the military despite my haircut. No, Evil Odin, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's because he had a blue Trans Am. It's too much of a coincidence that in the military that's a euphemism for that particular phrase. I mean, it could be a coincidence. I guess we could ask his dad if we really want to know. But anyway. Thanks, Grant Lashley, for $2 in the super chat. Thumbs FPV gives $5 and says, my Bardwell F4 V2 is set up to measure current via ADC, but the OSD reads 4 amps. How can I confirm changes to the potentiometer are right? So Thumbs FPV, the JBF4, the latest releases of the JBF4 come from the factory pre-calibrated with the current sensor. There's a potentiometer on the underside of the board that has been calibrated at the factory. You should not change that. That is actually, it should be actually kind of glued so it doesn't move. You shouldn't change that. All you need to do is make sure that the current scale in Betaflight is correct. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it shipped with the wrong current scale. At least it used to. I think the right current scale is 131, but you don't need to change the potentiometer. You should be able to just set the current scale. I believe it's 131 is the correct value, and then it should be working. Remember, if you've got the JBF4 or any flight controller with a 4-in-1 ESC, then you can't use the built-in current sensor. It depends on how the flight controller is wired, but it needs to be set up to be compatible with the ESC. Simon Saucy asks in the Discord, do you think the Nirvana is a good controller? Simon, I talked about the Nirvana. I basically answered that exact same question earlier in the stream, so I'm going to skip it, but I do want to acknowledge your question. If D-Shot can reverse motors, asks Blob87, why do I have to set the motor direction in BL Heli? Blob87, the answer there is because there's no way for the ESC to tell Betaflight that the motor does or doesn't need to be reversed. In theory, you could set Betaflight up so when it first powers up, the first thing it does is it reverses 2 of your motors. Betaflight has not chosen to implement that functionality. The assumption is that the ESC is the one that keeps track of which way the motor should be spinning. So you could do that, but it kind of would be implementing another point of failure, and most people don't want to do that. Trey Tucker asks, will the R9M work with the XSR? No. The R9M is an R9 receiver or transmit receiver. It uses, well, transmitter. Anyway, it's 900 megahertz long range stuff. The XSR is a 2.4 gigahertz receiver. They do not work together. Ion FPV, I think the highest concurrent watchers is around 500 or 600. But it's not about quantity. It's about quality. Right now I've got 416 viewers as of my peak concurrent, and they were the best 416 viewers I've ever had. You guys have been awesome. No, I'm not done. I'm not signing off. Let's see here. Somebody asked earlier, I missed who it was, but somebody asked earlier about traveling with drone gear. I can speak a little bit about that. I actually have a video about traveling with it, but the short version is that you need to carry on your lipos. I don't think there's anywhere in the world that allows you to put your lipos in checked bags. And the reason, here's the logic. Lipos are really dangerous. We shouldn't let them on planes. But people won't stand for that. Lipos are everywhere. Oh, crap. We have to let lipos on planes. Okay. Do we want a fire in the cargo hold, or do we want a fire in the cabin? The cabin? Is nowhere an option? How about no fire at all? Okay, but what if? Okay, the cabin. So when you travel with lipos, you have to carry the lipos on with you. You cannot put them in the checked bags. That's always true. The number of lipos you can carry on varies depending on the country you're in. In the U.S. and most of Europe, in the U.S., I know for sure, you're typically allowed unlimited lipos under 100 watt hours, which is all of our typical FPV lipos are under 100 watt hours. They're typically around 20 or 30 watt hours. So unlimited, under 100 watt hours. There are some places that limit you, some countries that limit you to like 20. Okay. The bottom line is check with your airline. Find your airline page where it has your LiPo regulations. Like for example here, let's pick one. How about Ryanair LiPo batteries? I just picked Ryanair out of thin air because it's not a U.S. carrier. We're going to go look. Permitted liquids, baby food and milk, prohibited items. Let's just search for LiPo. Really? How about batteries? Lithium battery operated devices are accepted for carriage in cabin once the battery does not exceed 160 watt hours. Oh, I need a little more info than that because it says you can bring them if they're under 160 watt hours, but I would like to know for sure that I'm allowed to have, like, how many I'm allowed to have. I might end up needing to call, or not really 100% happy with that answer. Aha. Ryanair allows passengers carry 2 spare lithium batteries. Oh, that's bad. That's no good. Okay, so no drone people flying Ryanair, I guess is what we're getting at here. It's a little boring, but this is what I would go through if I was going to book a ticket. I'd be wanting to look this stuff up. So then what you're going to want to do is print it out and have it in your hand when you're checking in and when you're going through security. And if they say, Stingy ran into this in Mexico. He was getting back on the plane coming home from Mexico. He had all his batteries with him, and the agent said, you can't bring those. And he was like, the policy says I can. And she was like, no, you can't. And he was just basically like, okay. And then he lost basically all his batteries. So the best thing you can do is print it out and have it in your hand and politely ask to see a supervisor. But personally, flying within the U.S., I've never had an issue with it at all. Never had an issue with it at all. So the other thing to keep in mind with flying is, in the U.S. at least, hand tools under 7 inches long are allowed to be carried on. So all of my hex drivers, obviously not my Leatherman, not like a knife, but any hand tools, screwdrivers and stuff, you can carry those on. It's no problem. Okay. The rest of my gears, Daniel Lewis, goes in the check bag. Quads, I sometimes will carry on a quad with me in case my bag gets lost. Like if I'm working, I learned from years of traveling for work that you always carry on the tools. Let's imagine that your bag got lost and at 9 a.m. the next morning you have to be at the customer site. So when I was doing Wi-Fi site surveys, all of my site survey gear would get carried on with me. None of it was ever checked. So if I'm flying for Rotor Riot, and then I'll carry a quad with me. I have my transmitter with me, obviously, batteries, anything I might need to fly. But everything else gets checked, just in the check bag. Yeah. All righty. UAV Tech doing some moderating in the chat. Thank you, UAV Tech. Anybody has questions about tuning? If he's paying attention, he can answer them. Snoopy RC says, I think JC talked about a blue Firebird in an old FPV Life podcast. I think that's where his pilot name came from. Snoopy RC, I got to say, he was in the military. He clearly knew what a Blue Falcon was. If he later started telling stories that the name came from a Blue Firebird, maybe that's true, but also maybe he was pulling your leg a little. Well, we may never know. We may never know. What's a good quad bag? Cheap, Athix. We talked about this on one of the previous ones. What's a good, cheap quadcopter bag? I got to tell you, what's cheap? Define cheap. Define cheap, because if cheap is, like, the cheapest I've seen quad bags be is about 50 or 60 bucks. And I think that one of the best value for a quad bag is the Torval Quad Pit Stop at 109 bucks. 109 bucks is for a quality backpack, 109 bucks that's up there, but it's not like outrageous. And I have the Quad Pro, the Quad Pit Stop Pro, which comes in closer to 200, has a couple little bells and whistles, but this is a really pretty nice bag. It does look like this one doesn't have the ability to strap drones on the outside. That kind of sucks. But hey, what are you gonna do? You'll figure that out. The other one that's worth looking at. This is definitely not cheap. $150 for the FPV Session is worth at least looking at. As far as cheap bad go, I don't know. We looked at some backpacks in a previous live stream, but I'm not ringing a bell on which ones we might have seen. Anyway, there we go. I don't know. That's those are two that come to mind. There's a new Banggood budget bag for $40, says the Lazy Rocket. What makes a backpack a quad pack, Mad Fisher? To me, what makes a backpack a quad bag is easy ability to strap the quads to the outside, ability to have the transmitter safe and secure, and the goggles safe and secure specifically. Those are two things, yeah. Zumabees is wanting to know about choosing ESCs. I've seen a question a couple times. When you're picking ESCs, the first thing I would say is decide whether you want BL-Heli S or BL-Heli 32. Right now, someone who likes KISS ESCs is dying inside. The fact is that if you want KISS gear, then you know it, and you're going to get a KISS flight controller and a KISS ESC. But many people starting out, they're just looking for the sort of best value for money, and KISS gear is pretty pricey. So BL-Heli 32 or BL-Heli S are going to be where you're going to be at. BL-Heli 32 has some performance enhancements, but BL-Heli S will get the job done, and is a little. You'll find BL-Heli S ESCs for $8 or $9. You'll find BL-Heli 32 ESCs for closer to $12 or $13 at the cheapest. So they're a little more expensive. But pick one of those, and then pick the amp rating. And the amp rating, for a 5-inch quad, if you have a 25 or 30 amp ESC, anything additional is gravy. So just get a 25 or 30 or 35 or 40 or 45, whatever seems to work for you. Make sure that it is rated for 4S or 6S. If you're running 6S batteries, make sure it's rated for 6S. And then the only question is getting one that's not going to just explode on you. And there's no way to do that except to just look around and try and find ones that have a good reputation for reliability. If you're starting out, definitely think about getting individual ESCs, not a 4-in-1, because when a 4-in-1 smokes and it costs you $60 to replace it, it really stings. But when you burn a single ESC and it only costs you $15, it's not that bad. Mad Fisher, I think the thing with most camping packs, Mad Fisher, is that they don't tend to have internal dividers. So for me, if I was going to put my transmitter into a regular backpack, I would have an external sleeve to help protect the switches. But then that's just another thing to dig through. The thing about a quad pack is that it sort of opens up, almost like a lot of photography bags could double as quad bags. It's going to open up and give you access to all your gear very quickly and easily. The very, very first time I went out with my Low Pro quad guard bag, as I was flying, it started to rain. And within like 45 seconds, boop, all my stuff back in the bag, zipped up, and on my way. And I was like, oh, I see the point to this. Mewkey Woo, there's no difference to traveling with lipos on long-haul flights. Everything I said about traveling with lipos earlier applies to long-haul flights. You have to you have to carry them on. You cannot check them, etc. If you're doing a long-haul flight, check the regulations in both countries, because TSA is going to check you when you leave the U.S., but somebody else is going to check you when you come home. And the regulations may be different getting on, even with the same airline. If you're flying American Air, there may be different regulations when you board in China than when you board in the United States. So definitely check the regulations very carefully. Remy Tim gives $5 in the super chat and says, thanks for your Betaflight 4.0 tuning video, super helpful. I always need more information on how to properly tune filters. It's never fully clicked for me. Thanks, Remy Tim. No question, just there you go. Matthew Hill, thank you for $25. Oh, so Matthew Hill there's an event at my house. There's a local race at my house. We're going to do some firecrackers afterwards, some fireworks afterwards. Matthew Hill's donating to the fireworks budget, so it's going to be fun. T Jenga says, I'm running 6S on 3 to 5S single ESCs because my amp draw is so low, it doesn't really affect it. Still have barely gone above half the amp rating during full punch out. Yeah, T Jenga, if your ESC has a higher amp rating than you need, that's good. It's going to give you a little bit of headroom when it comes to voltage spikes and stuff. But, I mean, if they're a well-made 35 amp ESC is more than almost any 5-inch quad is ever going to need. Because remember, the amp rating is continuous, so you've also got a burst rating. So a 35 amp rated ESC could probably burst to 45 or 50 amps briefly and not have a problem. So, and if you think about it, how many quads are going to pull more than 200 amps for very long? Well, not very many 5-inch quads anyway. License to Drive wants me to attach a sparkler to a quad and then get another quad to chase it. That does sound cool. Aaron, son of Scott, asks if we're going to fly in the fireworks. Yes, we are going to allow people, if they prefer, if they want to try to fly in the fireworks. Cyrus Johnson wants to know if it's okay to replace all XT60s with XT30 connectors. No, Cyrus Johnson. If your quadcopter regularly pulls over 30 amps, which all 5-inch quads probably do. Okay, if you've built a long-range quad that cruises at 12 amps and almost never goes above it, you could think about using an XT30. But no, just use XT60s. Fishlion, I think you're joking, my friend. Fishlion says, my car makes noises on the wheels. What could be the problem? I know. That's how it feels sometimes, Fishlion. Sometimes it does feel like just random questions come out of nowhere. BA gives $5 in the super chat and says, I'm new to FPV. I can fly line of sight in angle mode and acro trainer fairly well, but when I put on the goggles, I can't seem to fly the drone at all. BA, what I would suggest you do, you guys know where I'm going here, simulator, my friend. The computer simulator, the simulators aren't perfect, but it is close enough to flying FPV that spending 3 hours, 5 hours, for some people longer, depending on how quick a learner you are, but spending some time getting comfortable flying in the simulator. If you think about it, looking at your computer screen flying a simulator is exactly like what you see when you put the goggles on. You're literally looking at screens. And the physics of simulators are not perfect, but they're good enough that you will start to get your instincts right about what to do with the sticks and how to turn and so forth. So, Timmy, BA, I would say pick a simulator, Liftoff, Velocidrone, DRL simulator. DCL is free right now. FPV Freerider is free. Just pick one. Use your flight controller, plug in the USB, get it working, and practice in the simulator until you start to feel confident, and then you will just be fine at flying in real life. It just takes some time to figure it out. Joe Graves FPV wants to know... Joe Graves wants to know about a 20 by 20 stack. Thanks for $5 in the super chat, Joe Graves. Here is a stack that has come to my attention. I am not super up on micro stuff. I don't actually know a lot of 20 millimeter stacks that are really excellent. But one that I want to throw your way is the iFlight Success. Thanks, iFlight, for making me say the word success on a live stream. That's going to get me moderated. YouTube, right now, the YouTube mods are shutting my live stream down and demonetizing me. Thanks. The iFlight 6X4 V2 6S. It's one of the only 20 millimeter 6S stacks I'm aware of. 200 milliwatt smart audio VTX and ESC. $80 for the whole thing. The real question you asked is, how many UARTs does it have? I don't know the answer to that. But it's worth a look, I guess is what I'm saying. The other one that comes to mind, can I see how many? Yeah, the 20 millimeters often do not have a lot of UARTs. That's the challenge. I can't. Oh, here, where's the flight controller? Let's see if we can find the UARTs. No, it's got, I think you're out of luck, dude. The other one that comes to mind is the Diatone 20 millimeter stack. Where's the Diatone micro stack. How's that one? Fury F3, Mamba. Where's the 20 millimeter Diatone micro F3? Well, we don't want a micro F3. F3 is really out on the way out. Diatone F4. No. Okay, let's check the stack. Let's check the chat. Acon 20 millimeter. Psych Word FPV suggests the Acon. Let's have a look. This is just the flight controller. How are we doing for UARTs on this guy? T1, that's for smart audio. You're not going to want to give that up. T2, R2, T4, R4. Here are 2 UARTs. And R1. So if you're doing free sky, then you're good. You got 2 free UARTs. If you're doing crossfire, then you're going to lose T2, R2 for crossfire. You'll still have T4, R4 for GPS. This seems to be the winner. The Acon F4 seems to be the winner. Bruno Poitras wants to know, would I take the True DV3 or the new True DX? Well, obviously the True DX, I mean, it's $120 versus $80, so, or less. So, I mean, it's like twice as expensive, but if your cost is no object, then True DX is better. Fishline wants, how old do you have to be to get a flight license? Can't tell if you're serious or if you're trolling me, Fishlion. You don't need a license to fly FPV. Appy FPV, no need to apologize, my friend. No need to apologize. It's not like that, dude. I appreciate your contribution. I want to help you. I just don't want to waste everybody's time. I still want to help you. Don't give me, Appy, don't give me $5 to apologize. Give me $5 to put your question in the super chat and I'll answer it. You're good, man. You're good. We're good. We're good. Ham license? Yeah, MC's Creations. I guess you technically do need a ham license. You need a ham license to fly FPV. Although, technically you don't need a ham license because if you have a licensed operator there, they can, you can, operate under their license. Right? Isn't that the way it works? I don't know. There's no age limit for amateur radio licenses. You have to pass the test, but if you can pass the test, there's no age limit. So, there you go. Corbin Buesh, I never thought you'd catch a stream live either, my friend. But it's good to have you here. Oh, right. Mad Fisher, good point. I'm talking about the U.S. There's no age limit. If you're in another country, then there may be a restriction. Good point. Now, everyone in the world is not in the U.S.? I don't think that's right. I understand that there are other countries out there. No, obviously I'm not a moron, but you all just have the same laws as us, right? And culture. Because we're the best. And everyone should be just like us. I will say, at this exact moment, our drone laws are way better than some of y'all's. At this for now. I mean, it's all going to go to hell, but... How do I charge my lipos in the field? Asks Daniel Lewis. To be honest with you, Daniel Lewis, I just bring 30 lipos with me, and by the time I run out, I'm just exhausted and done flying, and I don't want to fly anymore. That's the truth. If you want to charge in the field, the best way I think to do it is, you can run your car and charge off your car battery. I wouldn't charge off your car battery if the car isn't running because you'll actually suck your car battery down and kill it surprisingly fast. You think your car battery is massive, but it's not designed for long discharge. It's designed for starting the car. So just idle the car, waste gas, destroy the environment, and charge that way. Don't charge your batteries under your hood, though, because when one lights off, it'll light your car on fire, and that's not good. I have seen that happen one time. Another great thing is you can get a little... You can actually get a 1,000-watt generator for surprisingly cheap. No price. Damn it. I knew a guy who brought one of these with him to the field. Yeah, well, that's not very cheap. 1,200 watt, $139. This is a $500 because it's an inverter. Oh, that's 1,800 watts too. I don't want to. Well, anyway. I knew a guy who brought one of these with him. It was not too heavy. It was maybe 20 pounds, carried a gallon of gas, and it would run all day and charge batteries. So that was an interesting thing. It may not be cost effective for everybody. You can always bring a 5S, 5,000 milliamp hour pack. But by the time you're bringing packs like 6S or 5S packs to field charge, you almost might as well just buy more batteries at that point, in my opinion. Is Place It Here wants to know. Sorry, I missed your question, Place It Here. Oh, I see. $5. Thank you. Is the Tyro 109 a decent... Who else did I miss? Oh, wow. Yeah, sorry, dude. Is the Tyro 109 a decent choice for a first build? Well, you bought it, so now you've got it. You may as well build it. I hope you have a good experience with it. Yeah, a lot of people have a good experience with it. I don't know why would you ask that? You bought it. It's yours. Enjoy it. No, it's crap. You've made a terrible mistake. You should return it. What? You can't return it. No, you probably can't. So, go. No, I'm not saying that. Forge ahead, my friend, and have the best time in the world. And if it turns out to break down or something, you will have a nice experience trying to troubleshoot it. I did earlier in the live stream say that if you only have $100 to spend, the Tyro 109 is what I would recommend. But I also thought you should spend more if you possibly could. Pros71 Full gives $2 and asks, is it worth learning to fly acro mode if I fly line of sight? Pros71, I don't fly line of sight, so I couldn't tell you, but the really tippy top line of sight pilots, the quad movers of the world, they fly, Jeff Orta flies actually pretty good line of sight. He used to fly, he still does, fly collective pitch helis, so he can fly line of sight pretty well. Alex Vanover screw you, Alex Vanover. Stop being good at so many things. Alex Vanover, world-class racing pilot. We go out to Horizon Hobby to do a quad camp. They pull out this giant, extra class 3D plane. Turns out Vanover can fly 3D planes too. Sure he can. Why not? And he flies line of sight quads. He just stop. Just stop. Anyway, yeah, all those guys fly acro. They're not flying auto level. It just depends what you want to get out of it though. If you're flying a camera drone, auto level is the thing. Josh K, thanks for $3. Doing great. Thanks for always helping me. Yeah. Beverly Hills Aerials. Thank you. Wow. Beverly Hills Aerials is one of my patrons over on the Discord and just gave $50. Thank you. No question. Just $50 and an emoji. Thank you. Thank you so much, Beverly Hills Aerials. Really appreciate your support. Speaking of patrons, let's jump over to the Discord. Terminal LCPL is suggesting, well, so here's what let's do. I mean, if I'm going to share this, I may as well share an affiliate link. Terminal LCPL suggests this Tomahawk Power TG1000, 1,000 running watts, gas-powered portable generator, $100. If you want to go pick up something like that, there is an Amazon affiliate link. I would get a small commission, about $4. If you buy it, I get about $4. So, yeah, I knew a guy who brought something like this. They're not very quiet, but you just put them far away, and they just run, and you get charged batteries all day off of, a gallon of gas or something. Something to think about. You could certainly do a marine deep cycle battery. They're heavy as hell, though, and they don't charge as many batteries as it feels like they ought to. So that's what I always come down to. People are like, what about solar? You know how many watts you need? No. Raptor, King of the Bro Zone, wants to know, is it possible to program a macro into a quad and place it on a switch? Raptor, King of the Bro Zone, there is somewhere out there a video of a guy who created a Lua script that could cause a quad to do a move. It's up to 4 individual stick movements in a row on a switch flip. In general, though, the answer to your question is no. No, Raptor, King of the Bronze, that's not something that Betaflight supports. Have I ever been harassed or arrested while flying quads? In Puerto Rico, a security guard told us to leave and pointed a gun at us while we were leaving. Some would call that harassment. Yeah. Alrighty. If my quad connects to Betaflight, fine, but won't connect to the firmware flasher, what's wrong, Joshua? So then what you need to do, if you can connect, then that tells you that the drivers are basically working. But then when you go to flash, it just doesn't work, right? So you hit connect, and you go activate bootloader. And then what you want to see is DFU. Yay, everything is fine. If you don't see DFU, what you need is the Impulse RC driver fixer. You need to download and frankly, you should already have it downloaded on your hard drive because you're just going to need it. Download and run the Impulse RC driver fixer, and it will fix your driver. Now, you need to do it in this order, okay? You need to, hang on. Any day now. Flight controller, please. There it is. Thank you. What you need to do is you need to hit Activate Bootloader. Then you don't see DFU up here. If you see DFU up here, you're good. When you don't see DFU up here, then you run the Impulse RC driver fixer. And then it says, okay, I fixed your driver. Then you unplug. You plug back in. You do the whole thing again. And you should see DFU. Yeah. Viper FPV wants to know how having a baby is going. We have a new baby. It's about 3 weeks old now, I guess. I've been home for about a little while. It's actually our second kid, so we kind of know what we're in for. How's it going? It's it's all good. It's all good. We're all doing fine. I'm using our existing, using the first kid as an excuse to. I'm like, you got the baby, right? I'm hanging out with Dylan. Yeah, we're playing video games. I'm having quality time with my older son. You got the baby though, right? Okay, cool. She's got it. I can't stay up all night with the baby because I have to, keep an eye on Dylan. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Matt Bowers wants to know if GetFPV is not taking calls anymore. Tried 4 days in a row. Could you confirm? Matt Bauer, I'll tell you, here's what I'm going to do. This is the second time I've heard that question. I am going to ask my GetFPV contact right this minute. And it's, of course, 9:30 on a Monday night, so he might not answer me, but... Hang on. Okay, I've asked him. If he answers me, I'll give you the answer. Yeah, DeJuan Mitchell, we got that. We got that. Can Mrs. Bardwell fly drones? No. Corey Williams, she doesn't fly drones. She has her own interests, and she likes to say that the last video game she could successfully play was Super Mario because it's a side scroller. As soon as she tried to play a Mario game that was 3D, she says my Mario was drunk. She just can't figure out the 3D perspective walking around. She at one point recently, this was a few years ago, but semi-recently, she thought, I'm going to get back into gaming. I'm going to try and play Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was out. It was critically acclaimed. She said, I like role-playing. I'm going to try a role-playing game. She got cornered in the corner of the tutorial before you even get out of the vault, and she got killed by the rad roaches. And it was basically just like, she was like this. She was just like, what's happening? Where are the rad roaches? She just can't handle 3D games. So... she certainly doesn't fly quads, that's for sure. MC's Creations thinks I have red eyes. I don't know. Do I have red eyes? No, that's just what my eyes look, my friend. That is just what my eyes look like all the time. Sorry to say. So then, I'm about to go on a 3-week-long FPV vacation. Other than the obvious spares, what do I need to take with me that most people would forget? So then, here's the thing. You need to take all your basic stuff with you because you're going to get there and you're going to find out you left your goggles at home or something like that. And, so what I would say is this, so then, go flying like tomorrow. And everything you take with you, then put it in a box, right? So that when you go to pack, you make sure you're not missing it. And then do that for the next couple, do that a couple times. What would you forget? I always take I have a portable soldering iron. One of the nice things about having a drone bag, whether that's an expensive bag or a cheap bag, if you have a dedicated bag, I always build a second toolkit. It costs a little bit of money, but then you have a toolkit that lives in the bag and never comes out. And then when you travel, you don't have to wish that you'd forgotten something. The bottom line is you're going to forget something. What you need to do is every time you travel and you forget something, make a note, pardon me, make a note of it. And when you get home, get it back in your kit, and then that'll help with that. I'll tell you, hang on. This is my parts kit for quad camps. When I go to quad camps, I like to have additional. I don't take this with me every time I go flying, but if I were going on a long trip, I might bring it. And it's got a heat shrink assortment, various sizes, spare XT60s, various. Balance. These are balance plugs and buzzers. Don't use those very often. Spare antennas, crossfire antennas or whatever. Zip ties. These are spare parts. These are VTX little brackets that I use for micro cameras. MISC spare wires with silicone insulation. These are the SH plug kits from Ready Made RC, or from Race Day Quads or Ready Made RC, where you can build your own ESC plug. Let's see. I take with me screw assortments. This is an M2 screw assortment. This is M3 nylon standoff assortment. These are female-female. The others are male-male nylon standoffs. These are M3 screw assortments. These are cap head M3 screws, because I like cap head for some applications and button head for others. Yeah, tapes. MISC tapes, electrical tape. Portable heat gun. Those are some things that go with me on longer trips that might think about. Yeah, sometimes on a longer trip, I'll actually bring a second spare set of goggles in case mine break. Why am I ignoring Seth FPV? Am I ignoring Seth FPV? Where's Seth FPV? Am I ignoring him? I'm not ignoring anybody. Just, there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's see. Thank you for complimenting. Thank you all for commenting on my clothes. I do wear a sarong sometimes. I know that it's upsetting to some people or surprising. It's not a big deal. Jewel Fam says I flashed the wrong ESC firmware, BLHeli-S instead of BLHeli-32. Am I screwed? No, you should be able to flash in BLHeli-32. You shouldn't be screwed. But why are you flashing 16.7? 16.7 is BLHeli-S. I thought you wanted BLHeli-32. Flash BLHeli-32. Have I tried GemFan 5146.6 props? Yes, Torquetastic, I have. The GemFan 5149.9 prop is my favorite prop for the JB2407 motor. It's a big honking motor that needs the right prop to really get the most out of it, and it needs a heavier prop to make enough thrust. And I find that the GemFan 5149.9 is a great prop for that motor. The 5146.6 I liked a lot on I tried it on a 2208 motor and liked it a lot. I'd actually like to try it on like a 2207. A 5146.6, I mean, it's a little bit, I might not like it. I think I might not like it on like a 2700 kV motor, but on a lower, like a 2500 kV, I think it's probably pretty good. Let's see here. How hard is it to fix the direction of the motors? Place It Here gives $2 in the super chat and asks, how hard is it to fix the direction of the motors? It's easy. If you need to change the direction of the motors, just swap any two of the three motor wires with each other, or go into BL Heli and reverse the motor that way. Piece of cake. Peter McGill, thank you for 10 Australian dollars. Hi, I have the TBS Nano VTX, and Smart Audio only works sometime. Lots of our club members have the same issue as well. It's only the TBS Nano and the Nano Pro that have the issue. Peter McGill, I'm going to guess that's because the VTX has Smart Audio 2.1, and it's not compatible with Betaflight 4.0 yet. That's what I'm thinking. That's not true, Chamber. I'm here. What's going on, Tumbleweed? Tumbleweed says, no, I saw that question, Tumbleweed. I just wasn't sure if I was going to get to it. Tumbleweed 30 in the Discord says, based on this, does it mean that if you buy the new X9, it will not be compatible with any D8 whoops? Take a look here. FreeSky Classic form factor portable transmitter Taranis X9 Lite release. As a portable radio, the FreeSky Taranis X9 Lite is a remarkable fusion, blah, blah, blah. The Taranis X9 Lite uses the latest access communication protocol. But does that mean it's not backwards? How do we know whether it's backwards compatible with D16 or D8? That's the question. Is it backwards compatible? That's the thing. I don't know the answer to that. Tumbleweed, I don't know the answer to that. Nick Sebring in the chat is saying it's not backwards compatible. So it's D16 compatible, but not D8? Yeah, everyone is saying it's not backwards compatible. With D8 or D16? That's the question. Blake Terra wants to know what sim has the most realistic feel. Mr. Tux, sorry, what sim has the most realistic feel? Racing pilots really seem to like Velocidrone. I think Liftoff is fairly close, but nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect, Blake Terra. The X9 Lite has only access and no ACCST. Okay, so the X9 Lite will only have the newer access protocol. And I think FreeSky's business model going forward is to get as many people onto access as possible and get away from D16, because D8 and D16 are supported by all the third-party modules, right? And FreeSky, that's not good for FreeSky. So I've heard that once you update your receiver to the access firmware, can you go back? Some people have told me that they don't think you'll be allowed to go back to the older firmware. They're basically trying to get rid of D16. I don't know what that means for like Tiny Whoops and stuff with built-in D16 protocol. Here's the other thing. You've got the SPI receiver in some of these flight controllers. Can it be updated? Can it be updated to access? Very interesting. Yeah, Viper FPV agrees. Once you go access, you can never go back. Torleif Haugland gives 20 Norwegian kroners. Not saying they're better than Danish kroners. I wouldn't say that. He wants to know Reverb or Chameleon TI. So the Reverb is a good frame. It's a more traditional sort of top plate, bottom plate standoffs frame, though. If that's the style you want, I don't think you will go wrong with the Reverb. Personally, I like the Armatan design better with the metal front end. I think that's better for the kind of flying I like to do. I think it's more durable. But I would take the Marmot over the Chameleon TI as of today. I think I like it a little better. Keith Sluter wants to know, what are the gray areas of prop damage that I should deem acceptable to fly on? I'm too cheap to swap after every crash. Man, Keith, here's the thing. It just depends on how much vibration you can tolerate in your footage. You can fly on some pretty crappy props, but your footage will all be like, blah, 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 blah. When I'm trying to do like a pro level video, haha, I know. Me, a pro pilot, I know. But when I'm like trying to make something, I'll replace the props at the slightest sign of damage, because the having them be screwed up and having my footage be ruined isn't worth it. When I'm just flying for fun, a fair amount of damage. What I'll always do is I'll hold the, I don't have a quad handy. I'll hold the quad up. I learned this trick from Drew from Ladrib. Take one of the props and spin the other prop and look that the props are at the same height as each other, and then spin the other one. And if it's not, if one is down, just push it up. And then as long as the props are basically all at the same height, probably you're going to be okay to fly. Your footage may look like crap, but... Tumbleweed says, it's bizarre they would leave their own D8 standard behind. Tumbleweed, it's not bizarre. It's a competitive move. To be fair, the FreeSky Access Protocol does have a whole lot of great features. And that's good. That's the carrot that gets you to want to upgrade. But they are interested in getting rid of the old standards D8 and D16 because they are not encrypted. Anyone can implement them, and they don't want anybody playing the game that they play. And I think that's really freaking ironic, because if you look at this. Look at this, guys. FreeSky Futaba Faz compatible. FreeSky TFR6M 6-channel Futaba compatible micro receiver from FreeSky. Now, let me ask you something. Is that licensed by Futaba? I don't know, but I don't think so. FreeSky reverse engineered the Futaba protocol, I think, and put out cheap compatible receivers. That's nothing wrong with that. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm fine with reverse engineering and putting out compatible stuff. That's competition, and I love it. But then Jumper comes along, and they've got this multi-protocol module in their radio that does D16 and D8 protocol, and FreeSky's like, wait a minute. And so then they put out this access protocol to try to get you guys to upgrade. And they hope that you'll just forget D8 and D16 ever existed, because that's better for FreeSky, because now you have to use FreeSky radios. You can't use a third-party radio anymore. Oh, you know that, right? Maybe someday someone will reverse engineer access protocol, but probably FreeSky has made that as difficult as it can be. Okay. Michael Bainey gives $2 in the super chat and says, how do I get audio to work in my LaForge V4? Michael, you need a mic on your quad. The easiest way to do that is to get a video transmitter that has a mic built in. Installing a mic it's always been a pain in the ass to me to get a mic working, and they sound like crap. So if the VTX has a mic built in, then it'll send the audio, and then you need an earbud, and it plugs into the audio jack on the underside of the Fat Shark goggles. Or, since you have LaForge, I'm going to assume you have Fat Shark goggles. The LaForge doesn't really have to do anything with the audio. That just passes it through to the goggles. You just need a mic on the quad, and you need an earbud that's plugged in to the underside jack on the goggles. Chamber wants to know if the Hyperlow Vert V2 would work as a racing drone. Why not? I mean, it's not like I optimized for racing drone, but you could probably do it. OCFPV says that he really thinks I should check out the 4-inch class. I don't know. Why? What happened to 4-inch? Like, 3-inch is big now. 5-inch is big. Where's 4-inch? Why is nobody flying 4-inch? I don't know. Interesting. Bert Harrell wants to know if I use a GoPro only for YouTube, but I still use one if I weren't uploading to YouTube. Well, Bert, you gotta ask yourself what the final destination of the footage is. If you're uploaded to YouTube, I don't think you can do better than a GoPro. There's just no question that GoPro has excellent image quality. It's just expensive. If I was just flying for myself, I still think there's an advantage to carrying a GoPro because you can go back and review the footage, right? So I've learned a lot about my flying. Like I'll be flying a quad and I'll go, yeah, it's a pretty good tune. And then I'll look at the high def footage and there's some little wobble or oscillation that I didn't notice. So I still think that there's real benefits to carrying a GoPro if you're trying to work on your tune, even if you're not trying to like impress your mom with your awesome flight video. Kyle K wants to know if I commented on the FPV Blue thing. What FPV Blue thing? What is it? Thanks for $5, Scott Walker. No question. Alan gives $5 and wants to know my thoughts on the Hyperlight glider frame. Well, if it's a Hyperlight frame, it's probably pretty freaking good. Hyperlight makes good frames. Let's see. Pyrodrone. Let's see here. No, not that. Here's what I want. Hyperlight glider. It doesn't exist. What is a Hyperlight glider, Alan? I can't find a reference to that. Is it Hyperlight Glide? Oh, there we go. 5-inch freestyle frame. Interesting. Does it have the horseshoe or the boomerang arms? Or are they individual arms? Can't tell. Bob Ruge designs. He's a great frame designer. This frame is similar to like the Alien, right? Obviously, it's got that basic top plate, bottom plate, standoffs, detachable arms. Based on Bob's reputation, Kebab's reputation as a frame designer, he's designed a lot of other frames. That this is probably a fine frame. It doesn't stand out to me as having any like like if you look at the Armatan Marmot and you go, oh, what's going on with that front end? It looks like a solid design. I've kind of moved away from this style of frame because like I think the durability of the front end really suffers. But if you're looking for this kind of frame at $55, it's a hell of a good price for a freestyle frame. Flanked by two 20x20 platforms. That's nice. 20x20 in the front and a 20x20 in the back. That's slick. That's slick. You could probably even with a micro camera get both of those. That's really nice. Yeah. Yep. Looks like a good frame. Yeah. There's only so much you can do with this style of frame. I mean, figuring out how the arms attach and how they come together. That's good. Yeah, it's a good frame. I hope that's what you were looking for. FPV. Oh, well, I mean, Kyle K, you're just asking about FPV Blue. I mean, yeah. FPV Blue exists. I had the opportunity to review an FPV Blue system sometime back, but when I asked about the latency was so high that I was like, I don't think there's any point in me reviewing this. So unless they have changed something about the latency, then I wouldn't mess with it. Yeah. Let's see here. Checking the Discord. See, I'm not leaving you behind, Discord. The other reason, by the way, patrons in the Discord, the other reason that I don't, like, as the live stream goes on, I don't come back to the Discord quite as much is because, like, after, it's like there's the same 5 guys hanging out. And after I answer a question from the same guy like 3 or 4 times, I'm like, okay. I think you've got your $2 a month worth. I don't want to take, everybody over in the regular Twitch YouTube chat still. Yeah. Propsoft wants to know if there are any changes I would make to my perfect 5-inch freestyle quad before he starts ordering parts. Propsoft, I mean, if I were buying today, I would get the Marmot over the Chameleon TI. If you don't trust the Marmot Space Age Carbon, you can order it with traditional carbon. But I do think the only reason I didn't use the Marmot back when I did that was because it wasn't out yet. So I would get the Marmot today. The other thing, what else would I change? I got to tell you, I've had good results with the flight controller, but the soft-mounted gyro on the Kakute F7, when you're putting the battery strap in, I'm always a little bit a little bit concerned that I'm going to rub that gyro. And this issue that I'm having with mid-throttle oscillations, I've tried a lot of things to try and fix it, and I haven't replaced... I mean, I've replaced the flight controller with another Kakute F7, but one of the things that we're coming to is trying a whole different flight controller and see if that fixes the mid-throttle oscillation. So it's possible, like, what's this? The iFlight flight controller with the dual gyros, or the SP Racing F7 Ultimate with the dual sensor fusion gyros? This issue I'm having with mid-throttle oscillations on this build is getting me to think maybe I want to like be thinking about those. But overall, other than changing the frame, I would stick with what I got. Maytech F722 SE. Props off. The other thing I would look at is look for a flight controller with an MPU 6000 gyro, which is clean and noise-free. Why the F722 SE? Props off. It has dual gyros, but I don't think it uses them both at the same time. But it does have dual gyros, which probably means it has... Stop it. I don't want that. Go away. It does have dual gyros, which probably means that it has both an MPU 6000 and an ICM gyro, in which case you have the option to use the MPU 6000, which is nice. Ah, come on. Specs and manual. Gyro. Dual gyros, yeah. So, I mean, a flight controller like this with built-in dual gyros, where I can use the MPU 6000 gyro, if I had the option to use an MPU 6000 gyro, I would be trying that to see if it fixes my mid-throttle oscillation problems. But I'm actually, let's go back here. I'm actually looking at the iFlight, the F7 Twin. So I'm looking at this flight controller and thinking about whether I want to try it out. I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know that the Holy Bro is the cause. It's just like I'm getting so far down the list that I've run out of things to try, and swapping the flight controller to a different one entirely is on somewhere on the list. I still like the Holy Bro flight controller, but this guy's got the sensor fusion with the two gyros. The other one we got to give credit to is the SP Racing F7 Ultimate from Dominic Clifton, which has the same feature. It's way more expensive, but you know, he like hand builds them in his basement, so what would you expect? Yeah. Yep. I'm curious if that will give better gyro performance. Let's see here. Terminal LCPL is given the backpack link. Here's a backpack people asking about. Yeah, Kyle K, it has 12 motor outputs. Dominic Clifton has a thing for big quads, I guess. Short Circuits wants to know what I think about the H7. So the SP Racing H7, that's the one we're actually looking at here. That has the fastest processor of any Betaflight flight controller or Clean Flight controller today. The H7 flight controller is faster than the F7. Why? I don't know. That's just how they do it. It's pretty cool. The extra processor speed I don't think matters one bit, but especially now that Betaflight isn't running 32K anymore, but has a whole lot of other really cool features. Like, for example, you can flash firmware from the SD card. That's pretty slick. It's got a thing called PID audio that helps you tune your PIDs by putting audio in the earpiece. That's pretty slick. And it's just got a whole lot of other features. The big thing about it, though, for me is that it's like 60 euros, which is like 70 or 75 bucks. And that is so much freaking money for a flight controller. It just kills me to think about spending that much. So it's got a lot of cool features, but I just don't know if I would ever pay 70 bucks for it. Got to be honest. I want to be a person who would spend 70 bucks on that, because I think Dominic Clifton deserves it. I think it's a good piece of design. I think it deserves support. But then when it comes time to actually swipe my credit card, I go, but the iFlight is only $45, half as much. And then I'm not sure. MC Creation says you can't flash firmware to it. You just, what I really thought it said you could flash firmware off the SD card. Are you sure about that? Huh. No, no, no. You can. You absolutely can. Look, it says right here. Finally, oh, where'd it go? Finally, the flight control firmware can be loaded or flashed from the SD card. Format your card as usual. Place the firmware on the card. Simple. No DFU driver issues. It also has 100. No. Sorry, man. It has a 128 meg flash chip, and it uses it for code storage and for logging. So UAV Tech, that's how they're dealing with the small program flash size. He just loads the code from the 128 meg flash chip. He's a pretty clever guy. He's a pretty clever guy. Anyway, is KISS worth it? Ghetto Bird FPV. A lot of people out there feel that KISS is worth it. That's what I'll say. Is it worth it to you? You make $1 million a year, you can spend it whatever you want. Alrighty, guys. We are coming to the end of the stream, and I'm out of my drink, and that's gonna bring us to the end. Matt Bowers says, Dominic Clifton said on Painless 360 that the H7 Extreme, you technically could boot an ArduPilot SD card or iNav SD card or Betaflight SD card. You just change the SD card and it flashes different firmware. But what you're telling me is you can't just put like 5 different firmwares on the SD card and pick one in the OSD? I see. Interesting. I didn't know that. 20 Norwegian kroners. What do you think about the Alpha Monster 5-inch, 6-inch, and 7-inch frame? Well, for 20 kroners, I got to at least look. Can't end the stream. I was trying to end the stream. Alpha Monster. What is this? Yeah. It's a racing frame, isn't it? I mean, that looks like a racing frame to me. It's so tight. It's just the first thing I think when I see this is what a pain in the ass it's going to be to build because it's so tight. But okay, let's set that aside. Stack screws go through the arms. It looks like the stack, unless it's designed for a 20 millimeter stack. Either way, do stack screws go through the arms? That's kind of annoying because then you got to take your stack apart in order to change your arm. Anytime you have a quad with, I'm not 100% sure where the stack screws go on this. It looks like the stack screws might go through the arms though. Anytime, well anyway, my point stands. Anytime you have a quad with replaceable arms, if the stack screws go through the arms, then it's so annoying to replace an arm. I hate that in a build. The rest of it, I mean, what could you say? $40. Yeah, I don't hate it. Unless the stack screws go through the arms, then I hate it. This thing on the end of the arms, it's a little silly. The idea is that the wires may come outside and go under the arms. I don't really think anybody does that. I think this is just wasted space here. It helps protect the arm, protect the motor in the event of a crash, but... So it's a racing frame. Yeah, it's okay. What about the battery strap? It always bugs me. How's the battery strap go through? Yeah, so the battery goes on the bottom. Where's the battery strap go? Okay, it goes between the two bottom plates. That's fine. I like that. Easy ability to change the battery strap. I appreciate that. Okay. That is going to bring us to the end of the stream. Thank you guys. So, Extreme FPV wants to know if Butterflight is good. Not touching that. Not touching that. That is going to be the end of this stream. Daniel Lewis, when is your next live stream? My next live stream will be Sunday. I do a live stream Sunday at 1 p.m. for the Europeans and the people watching football in America. And I do a live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday. It's Monday, right? For the Europeans who stay up late and the most Americans. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We're going to find out next week whether I trimmed the yard today, and I was definitely trimming poison ivy. And when I got back in, I took a hot shower with all the soap in the world, scrubbed everywhere. And we're going to find out next week whether I got it all off of me. If I show up next week with poison ivy all over my face, that's what happened. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I do want to remind you that this is my full-time job. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. I hope it was educational. If I helped you, some of the ways that you can support me is by joining my Patreon. There's a link down in the video description. You can join for as little as $2 a month. You could join for more if you prefer. And in exchange for that, well, I always say, if you want to, people are like, what do I get when I become your patron? And I'm like, I don't know. Mostly nothing. Sometimes I do giveaways. And like I said, I do pay slightly more attention to the patrons' Discord and messages from patrons. But mostly, I help everybody, including patrons alike. What I always like to say is, if you feel like you get value from my content, then figure out a dollar amount that feels right and then do it. And if you don't feel like you get value, or if you like go, nah, I don't know, don't. No hard feelings. You're still welcome. So my Patreon's down there. The other thing you can do, if you like, is you can use the affiliate links down in the bottom of many of my videos. There's links to products. They are affiliate links. When you click those links, I get a small commission when you make any purchase after you click those links. And I am just on a crusade to educate people about how affiliate links work, because nobody knows. And whether you use my affiliate links or use anybody's, it's a great way for you to support whoever it is that you want to support. If they have because you click on my Banggood affiliate link, or Get FPV, or Race Day Quads, or Amazon, anything you buy from in that session, I get credit for. Not just the people are like, well, I don't want to buy the Alpha Monster frame. That's okay. Just click that link before you shop, and I get a small commission. It does add up. Thank you, guys. That's my spiel. That's going to do it for the live stream. Thank you guys for coming out. If I missed your question, sorry. Send it to me an email. Message me on Facebook. I will do my best to help you. Happy flying, everybody.